the physical environment that has advanced.
No, I understand what you're saying, where we should be getting it from. What I'm trying to understand now is where are these masajids getting their models from?
They're not.
Okay, but you said that everybody there, or most of the leaders there, they want to prioritize their own agenda, and they feel that their own agenda is all that makes sense, right?
Correct.
So where did this come from?
I have no idea.
Have you heard?
I would think it would just be general egos of individuals.
No, it actually came from somewhere, and I'm going to let you know where who they're modeling right now, who they're following. We're gonna make clear what was uncertain to the masses prior to today. Because for sure realize that every action, every word that we say, I mean, it's been said before. This deed has been intended before. Someone has intended it prior to us. Now the question is it a saying and a deed that is destined for Jannah or Jahannam? That's the question. Do we even know how to differentiate?
Are you asking me that? Are you making a statement?
Well, I would call it rhetorical now because, again, generally speaking, majority have failed to understand, unfortunately, that this aspect of leadership, of authority, we know we're not getting it from Quran. We know that generation before us had the same idea and had this same way or similar to it. Where did it come from? Understand what you're mimicking and what you're modeling. When you don't take from the message of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, you don't take from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you always wind up taking outside of that in which is Al-Islam. Eventually, it's going to fall.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, it's really not going to take off the ground that far.
See, the white man says, and this is a white man who I had a conversation with. I don't remember his name. But what he said, and he's very clear about it, that the structure, the mechanism of U.S. politics is for every politician to care about their own political agenda and nothing and nobody else.
Can't believe that.
Okay? And evidently he was right. Because this is what we have at the local, this is what we have at the state, this is what we have at the federal, this is what we have practically all over the United Nations. People with their own political agendas, just trying to push them on everybody else, fighting real hard to see through it, and not caring about the needs of anyone other than their political agenda.
Well, I guess that explains the mess that we're in.
Well, I don't think it's something that we can explain in one conversation or in one sitting,
I agree with that.
It's horrible. Our, community member, leaders, executives, they're just, by default, they're mimicking, what you have in the Capitol buildings. And they're mimicking the Roman Empire senators.
Well,
Okay,
yeah, well,
and they based it off of their. I hate to call the word, but basically they believed in different gods, of temperatures and sun and moon and stars. They actually, we're using Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on the names of gods. Gods that they had back in Greek, Roman, whatever you have. This is what, January, February, March, all these too. Did you know that though?
yeah, I knew all of that.
So that's, that is practically explaining itself right there. And now, to top it off, we have, so-called Masajid, Islamic centers, societies that are mimicking just what you see in the state capitol buildings.
Well, I see the Islamic community fundamentally following the Christian community. Let's see, Allah Ta'ala,
Jalla Jalaluhu, sallallahu
he said
alayhi wa sallam,
Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa
alayhi
sallam,
salatu wa salam.
and being the last Nabi, and he made him an example that his exemplary life showed that if you just follow this structure, the whole world will be much more mature, intellectual, and non-violent if you follow his way. But it's not saying that there needs to be a security force involved, because by the nature, you're going to have some individuals who's not going to follow it or going to rebel. And you're going to need a defense system to protect his way.
Now you're saying it's very interesting, and I don't mean to cut that thought short. But the kids at the university, and I'm not going to call them kids. I don't think that's appropriate, because Islamically, 17 years old, you're an adult. Anywho, they actually had a number of those camps begin to establish exactly what you're saying, to escort, some agitators out of the vicinities. I saw that. I don't know if it was one of the news outlets. But and that's really important. But not only that, spiritually, we actually ahead of the game.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
So don't forget, you have mystical, you have spiritual forces, and it's a matter of everyone understanding exactly, what that means and what it's about, and how to make better use of it. But we have every right, because when they brought us from Africa, they brought the best of us. They didn't bring the worst of us. They actually brought people of literacy, literate and competent, skilled.
Those that survived.
They brought, those who survived, exactly. Men and women survived it.
Here's the dilemma. You have, right now as we speaking, the humanists versus the capitalists. The humanists are those who have a great concern for human being and life. And the capitalists are those who we want money. We got to have the money. Now I commend those students who are, uprising and etc. But none of that is of any avail until it reaches the presidency and or Congress. And the presidency is not fazed by them uprising at all. And the sad thing about it is that he has told Netanyahu that he's not going to send him any more weapons for a moment. But in the same statement, he's telling Netanyahu, we're going to fully support you. So now they're going into Rafah, that area by the beach in Gaza, and that's the last invasion that they need to go to completely annihilate the Palestinians. They keep talking about this uprising that occurred in October. We realize that this has been an ongoing uprising since they were established in that area, in Philistine. They should have left them in Germany. But the Germans said, you leave them here, we're going to destroy them. And so they moved them out of Germany and decided to put them over there in a peaceful area over there in the Middle East. They had to have perceived in time, because this is that mode of operation of the Israelis. This is what they do. This is what they live by. That they want to control the world. Well, we as Muslims, we want to control the world as well. But in saying that, the Muslim Ummah really showed how strong the international brotherhood is. And the international brotherhood is not strong at all. They did not really come to the defense of the people, and they have lost their land and their culture. So, taking all of this into accountability, then we have to function in a way that our brother might not come to my aid. So whenever I do things, I got to realize that I might have to step out on my own by myself for this cause. It might come in America as long as it is a non-violent stand. It's cool. But our jihad here isn't really a violent stand. It's an intellectual stand. It's an educational stand that we have to keep imposing on the people. But as long as that uprising hasn't reached the presidency, and the presidency is not about to change his mind, he could care less about what's going on those college camps. I'm glad those children, they recognize and are conscientious of it. But the presidency, you could care less, man. They just took that land, period. Then you go have the Houthis and the Yemenites and the Iranians. They're gonna have their little skirmishes, and that's gonna be ongoing. That's not gonna stop, but it's not gonna have no impact to the Palestinian land.
Well, it already has. The reason why is because the refugee camp has some very creative people who decided to spray paint the white tent saying, "Thank you, U.S. students, for standing with us. We feel."
All of that. That was good.
Not only that, there's some more. They actually landed a couple of wins in a couple of universities. Evidently, they decided to divest with the state of IDF.
You see, I had already knew.
Well, wait a minute. There's more. Hold on. There's more, if I can just say so. The students are of educational backgrounds, and they're actually the Ivy League, the top notch of the educational background. They come from very well-to-do families. These are not, the type that they're used to seeing uprise for basic human rights. So that in itself goes down in the history of the United States of America. Take into consideration that they want to cut off academic ties now that they understand. Remember, back in the day, you could not keep these headlines in front of the public. for very long at all. But everything is going back, including their protest to Gaza. Now, one thing we need to understand is that the president and those senior citizens who are bullying us out of our tax dollars, whether they like it or not, every last one of us has equal amount of time in one day, and that's 24 hours. As time goes on, you are more likely. In other words, if you consider, all of the possibilities, because the president making it up and down the stairs of the Air Force One is a concern these days,
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Look, I guess what I want to say is that they're moving too slow.
You're moving too slow?
And the conformity with Israelites, they are moving too slow, and it's too detrimental.
And you know what the solution is?
Well, the damage has been done now. They could stop it if they wanted, but the damage has been done now. They done killed over 30,000.
I gotta leave it there, brother. Inshallah.